Hello everyone, my name is Olga. As you can see from the title of my proposal, my two variables are just listed right there. They are students' reading comprehension and parental perception of responsibility. In the introduction of my paper, I talk about Industrial Revolution and the transition of responsibility from parents to the public sector. Also, believe it or not, some stand-up comedians are parents as well. One was mentioning in his show that I watched some time ago that he gets notes from school to check homework. And well, it's not like he would go and send a note to school that his child still needs a bath. So why do they do that? One of the main points of my literature review was understanding how reading comprehension can be improved. According to a study by Duffy and colleagues, there's not a single approach that works 100% of the time. Another study that's done by Bitter and colleagues discusses how it's not the teacher's instruction or their modeling behavior, but rather discussions related to higher level meaning of text that positively is associated with student reading achievement. Another study by Solendek Dowell in 2006 mentions that teachers don't show or model good reading behavior because they don't make active reading a habit in their everyday life. Another study by Allington mentions teachers interrupting behavior. So low achieving students, the teachers pronounce the words for them, um, while high achieving students, they get more meaning based, kind of leaving students to be at the level they're at for the whole entire year. The topic of my literature review is perception of parental responsibility. And I look at the study that's done by Deci and Ryan in 1985, which examines motivation orientations that are relating to parental responsibility. This leads to the rationale and my hypothesis in the paper. So I'm a parent myself, so I do have an interest in knowing what other parents are thinking and whether what they think is actually effective in improving reading comprehension. My hypothesis is I want to know whether a relationship exists between reading comprehension and parental perception of responsibility. Moving on to the methods section of the proposal, let's consider the participants. In line with previous research, and also I was thinking an elementary public school on average has about 500 students per school. So that's just an estimate. That would be the participants. There would be elementary from public schools, students and their parents or parental figures. Are two things I would want to measure in my study. First, the parental perception of responsibility. I would use the General Causality Orientation Scale or survey, which consists of 12 scenarios, and there's 3 types of responses that are possible for each one. It would assess the strength of responsibility orientations within an individual's and the extent to which they believe attaining a particular outcome is possible. To measure reading comprehension, I would use the ATOS score, which assesses the readability of a book and relates it to a score with a decimal point as it pertains to a class grade and month at which the student is reading. Now moving on to the procedure. The parents would have 3 possible ways of completing the orientation survey by following a link through their email or a school app link, or old school, just a paper copy would be sent home with the student. Consent would be acquired before completing the survey, and a debriefing option would be they can select it if they want after they complete the survey. A request will be made for parents to include the most recent ATOS score of their student. Also, permission would be asked to validate that score. Part of the proposal is the data analysis plan. So how the measures would be scored. The orientation scale consists of 12 situations with 3 different possible responses or subscales of autonomy, control, and impersonal orientations. And this would be using the 7-point Likert type scale. The ATOS score is a measure of reading comprehension, and it is used with the Renaissance program within schools. So there's just the number with a decimal point. Moving on to the statistical test and descriptives, I would use the ANOVA to establish the relationship between the 2 variables. Possibly use a regression later on to examine the relationship between the 3 responsibility orientations and reading comprehension. I would be interested in reporting the mode, which would be the most common occurring scores. What can be learned, or what are the benefits of completing this study? If a relationship does exist, then maybe we'll see a spike in parental involvement in improving reading comprehension of students. Also, finding a connection between extrinsic and intrinsic concepts that are behind reading comprehension. And lastly, some of the claims that I make in my paper. Here's the reference pages, giving credit to where it is due.